All right. Hi, all. It's 7:01. We're going to wait a few minutes to just pull quorum together. Boy, Leo Jimenez, I've not seen your face and I can't remember how long.
In quite some time, right? Good
Exactly. Glad to see you looking alive.
Thank you, Debbie. How are you?
Good.
Debbie, you're feeling better?
Yeah, but this thing, I mean, Leo was sick in a whole other way. I just had that cold, whatever, like it just has hung on and it goes away a little bit. It comes back a little bit. It goes away. Like I was like, I just feel like this is my new normal. Like I'm just going to constantly. Like,
I have a couple family members that have had it and it's still lingering. Yeah.
I think also like we're past like kind of by the time my kid got it, she got a different version. It seems like that she gave that back to her parent.
And I think it's there's some seasonal stuff going around also, just that, all the combination. Yeah. But you look good.
Thank you. Yeah, no, my energy's okay, but it's like, yeah, Friday night and Saturday morning, I was like, oh, wow, I'm just like lost voice again. It's the whole thing. So let me just give a couple more minutes for Eli and I guess Chanel. If I'm seeing Jim's not signed on yet, I know you probably want to touch base with him on the Zoom stuff, but I'll try to pay attention as well in case it needs to be me. Jumina, you're on Public Safety Committee?
Correct.
Who usually does notes for your committee?
We actually do not have a note taker. Our chair hasn't appointed anyone, my awareness.
Okay. Just because, I'll open things, but I'm gonna then pass to Leo to chair the remainder from our side. Hey, Eleazar. And so, I mean, I'd rather not be the note taker, but if I need to be, I guess I will be.
All right, has the meeting been called to order?
It has not. We were just waiting for you.
All righty. Sorry, I'm having computer difficulties. How are you, y'all?
Good.
How's everyone?
What's going on, Eli?
Good.
Very good.
Chanel, would you mind? Jim Berlin he couldn't get his hands on his panelist link fast enough. Is it possible to send him his again quickly as well? Just before we call to order, just for the CB12 folks, remember that this is one of the, Chanel's not going to do it completely tonight because we have the double meeting and it's the first time, but remember that the office staff is going to start cycling out and not staying till the bitter end of our meetings. So there will be one or two of us that are available at each meeting to, switch to speakers and, and have, basically co-host responsibilities when our staffer needs to step out.
Yeah.
So Eli, should we call to order now?
Yeah, before we do that, I think, is there anyone from the participant side that we need to promote?
Oh, the attending. Yeah, I hadn't checked. Good idea.
Need to do that. Let's see. I don't see anyone. Share. Do you recognize anyone from your committee?
No, I think we're okay, unless anybody from I'm not seeing it.
see.
Yeah, I think we're good. There doesn't seem to be another board member or any panelists we need to promote.
Marshall Vanderpool, he's a public member, right?
But not of either one of these committees, but yeah,
Okay.
we always tend to promote him anyway.
Okay, so I guess we have enough board members to begin the meeting. Says Chris,
I finally showed up.
Oh, there
who
we go.
is- Yeah, who's Chris O'Sullivan? Is it a board member or a public member? Hey, Mr. Jimberlane.
It's a
I'm not
community
sure. I don't
resident,
think-
she's a community resident, but
Okay.
she's
Yeah.
got
Community
a
member, yeah.
message in the chat.
Yeah, so
From her.
we'll answer his questions as soon as we begin the meeting. Debbie, you want to give us the honor in this special meeting that we are having between two committees that usually should intersect a lot more than what we do. So leave it up to you for this, you and Leo to headline the first part of our meeting, and then
All right, well, thank you. Welcome to the joint CB12 meeting for traffic and transportation and public safety together. My name is Debbie Nabavian. I chair the Traffic and Transportation Committee. And from our committee tonight, we have Mary Anderson, Leo Jimenez, who is the assistant chair of the committee, Jody Hearson, Bruce Robertson, James Bosley, Jim Berlin. I think I've got everybody. I am going to just give like a 1.5 quick updates and then pass it on our side, unless, Eliezer wants to sort of do an intro from his side, and then I'm going to pass my chairing duties for tonight to Leo Jimenez, who's really taken the lead on this issue. As some people may know, there are community boards that actually have public safety and what we call traffic and transportation as one committee always. And traffic enforcement back in the day actually was under DOT, and then it got put into NYPD, obviously our lead enforcement agency for the NYPD. So because we're not a committee, a combined committee, and because what we were finding, particularly from the pandemic and onwards, is that so much of what we hear at TNT and people's concerns in the community are actually enforcement issues. And so we've all been sort of thinking about like, oh, why don't we just get together for a night, maybe even once a year. So I want to thank in advance everybody that made that happen, Eli and Leo and the 34th and 33rd and FDNY and everybody who could make it tonight. Just in terms of update on TNT side, I will just say that finally for those that use the station, escalators opened Friday around 1 p.m. at 181st Street Base Station. We anticipate in the next week, the Overlook Terrace entrance is going to close, which will be a little bit of a tough go for the months that entrance is closed, and people are going to have to come around to 181st or all the way around to Fort Washington and 184. Leo, when I'm just with that, I'm going to pass to I don't know if you want to do Eleazar or Leo, but Leo, when you get started, you might want to just, I think the crash data might be a good intro to the whole matter. So with that, I'm gonna step out. Oh, and Jay Mazer, I see from Traffic and Transportation as well. Welcome, Jay. And I see, thanks for being here, Lyle Blackwood from DOT.
Thank you, Debbie. Eli, do you want to introduce your committee?
yeah, sure. I see from our committee, Jermina Alcover, my good friend Luana Ferreira. I don't see anyone else. I see just 3 of us. Is there anyone else that I'm not mentioning or should be promoted from an attendee section. No, that's it for now. I'm sure that Barbara Fraser and the rest of the crew will join in as we go along. So again, this is one of those times in which we are extremely happy to have those colleagues of the capacity and the willingness to the commitment to be part of the solutions of what our community's issues are. So once again, thank you, Leo, for probably being at least 80% part of putting this together. So leave the floor up to you.
All right, thank you, Eli. So good evening, everyone. As Debbie introduced earlier, and Eli as well, my name is Leo Jimenez, and I am the Assistant Chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee. I want to thank all the panelists, committee members, and board members, of course, NYPD and FDNY and Traffic Enforcement for joining us for this long-awaited meeting. And special thanks to Debbie and Eli for making this happen. I know it's been a conversation for a while, and they were able to come in and make this and bring this meeting to fruition. So thank you guys. Before we start, and I guess I'll introduce NYPD and FDNY and other partners at this meeting, I just want to kind of give a brief of how we're going to run this show a bit. It's an open conversation, so it's obviously a dialogue amongst everybody. I want to make sure that everybody's opinions are heard or their concerns. So we'll start with the committee. The committee will address the panelists with questions and concerns, followed by the other community board members that are attending the meeting. And lastly, the public attendance. Be mindful and respectful that, again, everybody has their own opinions. And we have the people, NYPD and FDNY here, taking their time out. So we want to make sure we're respectful and thankful for their service. So who do we have from NYPD? If you can, or if Chanel can unmute them so they can introduce themselves.
We have the 34th. I see Anely Castillos is online from the 34th CO on his representation.
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Sergeant Ahmed from the 34th Precinct, representing Inspector Castillo.
Okay, welcome, Sergeant Ahmed.
Yes, my pleasure.
And I saw FDNY as well.
Yeah, Sandra Sanchez from FDNY, and Superintendent Miller from New York State. Sandra, how are you? And I see the Battalion 13. I forget his name. You're gonna introduce him.
Good evening, everyone. Happily joining here, Sandra Sanchez from FDNY Community Affairs. And I'm joined by the chief. He can introduce himself, from Battalion 13, which responds to your community.
I'm sorry, do we have somebody here from NYPD Traffic Enforcement?
Hello, this is Sergeant Ahmed from the 34th Precinct once again. One of my bosses, Captain Pagan, is having a little technical difficulty trying to log in, and I'm just helping him in the meantime, sending him the link and everything so he could participate in the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome, Superintendent and Ms. Sanchez. Thank you for joining us today.
Good evening.
And Chanel or Jim, can somebody get, is it Lieutenant Pagan promoted? He is in the attendee area. Oh, I think I had the power to do that too. Okay. Okay. He should be arriving through cyberspace onto the panelist list momentarily. There we go.
Thank you. It's Captain Pagan in the XO, the 33 Precinct.
Thank you, Captain Pagan, and thank you for joining us. So, as Debbie discussed earlier, we're gonna give a brief update on the stats of traffic incidents in our area. So last month for March, we had 32 total crashes in our neighborhood or within our districts. Out of those 32 total crashes, 43 injuries were reported. And out of those 43 injuries, there were one was fatal. That was a cyclist on St. Nick Avenue and West 165th Street. The numbers slightly increased from February. I know as weather gets warmer, seems people are using their vehicles or out and about more. So it's tragic for that one fatality. But I can know and thank NYPD. I see that they're more active, especially in those busy intersections such as 181st, 207, and certain other corners in our area to prevent or help when we have these cases. So with that being said, I guess we're gonna start our conversation. As Debbie mentioned earlier, is there any member from traffic enforcement, any agent? We are the Traffic and Transportation Committee, and we requested and would want a traffic enforcement agent just to kind of address certain concerns. I know NYPD has a lot on their plate and they help as much as possible with these concerns, but I think traffic enforcement is needed as well.
Leo, Inspector Castillo promised he'll send a sergeant.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Mr. Sergeant Ahmed is the person that he instructed to give us an update on traffic and transportation.
Okay.
Which area are we talking about?
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna jump in here. So maybe a good place to start. We had requested somebody who was coming from the Traffic Enforcement Command as well as the precinct, because I know that obviously the precinct has responsibility, also is involved in traffic enforcement every day. So maybe one thing that would be helpful is for us to stand, one, is anybody here from the actual Traffic Enforcement Command? And two, just to set up for us, like, again, as civilians, like what falls under the Traffic Enforcement Command versus the precinct's activities as it relates to traffic enforcement, which we know is every day, but sort of just like explain it to us who are sort of beginners on this topic.
Is this okay? I'll explain to the best of my ability. In any precinct, we have a traffic enforcement office, officers that are specifically their duty is to be addressing traffic conditions. That's any given precinct that's going to have traffic safety officers with supervisors and executive oversee of that operation. Any issue, any incident of a traffic fatality would be analyzed, and that corridor would be studied as to what contributed to the incident, whether it could be fixed, whether it would be a case of enforcement, or it would be a case of public awareness. That would fall under the scope of the traffic safety division within a regular police precinct. Yeah, that's my take on that one.
And I can elaborate on that also as Captain Pagan. For example, the Traffic Enforcement Division, if we're going to need an intersection to be closed down for an extended period of time, or we need traffic agents to help out diverting traffic, then we will call them, and they have more experience in that. Because not all traffic agents write summonses. A few of them are qualified, but not most of them.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, it's something that we've been trying to navigate with it. So not all traffic enforcement agents are the ones ticketing in our area. It's that
they do write parking tickets, but for example, movers, not most of them don't write movers. A few of them are authorized to write moving violations.
Okay. Good to know. So if we have to reach out to the precinct, the local precinct, when it comes to enforcement agents in certain areas, I know that in the past we were having issues on the corner on 179th going from, I want to say Nickel towards the bridge. So that was traffic enforcement agents that were covering those locations, helping with traffic, or?
Sometimes we do joint operations and they'll come with tow trucks because they assist. They possess the tow trucks, and so they can help out with vehicles that are in violation and need to get towed. That'll be a joint operation that we'll do with the traffic enforcement agents. But that has to be set up in advance.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to know. All right. Yes, Eli or Debbie.
Actually, Eli, go first, obviously.
Yeah, yesterday I noticed that there was an operative at the 207 bridge. And there was also a truck, an NYPD truck, in Sherman and 207. They were picking up scooters for like about 4 hours. Is that part of an initiative, or that was sporadic?
No, that was an initiative that went on this weekend. We were in preparation for the beginning of the summer because a lot of these dirt bikes and or ATVs are problematic. And as a matter of fact, just last Friday, 3 civilians, luckily they weren't seriously hurt, but got hit by an ATV here in my precinct, and the person fled. ATVs are they're not registered. You can't get that registered in the city. So of course the guy was driving that illegally, and that's why he fled. Luckily, the 3 civilians were not seriously injured. But so that's why we mounted that operation to confiscate these illegal dirt bikes and scooters, which is a challenge because we can't pursue them, we can't chase them. It's just too dangerous. So we get them if we see them gassing up or standing not in motion. That's when we try to apprehend them.
Go ahead, Debbie.
I just wanted to clarify something and make sure I understood correctly. So the majority of moving violations, you're saying, those would be ticketed via traffic enforcement?
No, by
The
police.
people from the traffic enforcement command, or that
No.
could be a mix?
That'll be officers from the precinct.
That is, okay, so it's the majority officers of the precinct who are on those speeding violations, for example.
Yes.
Right. Okay, I got it. And then coming back to what Leo was just referring to, again, to sort of get clarity, like my understanding was, and I think it is improved, and it's just a Friday issue. It's not a like many days. But when over the course of like a year, when there were these colossal backups going onto the bridge on, from 179th, so backed up all the way on Fort Washington, backed up all the way on Broadway, backed up all the way on 179th, backed up, locked up, couldn't kind of get out of the neighborhood. And people are calling, and they're calling 311, et cetera. So that, and then ultimately when we got somebody there, that was through NYPD traffic enforcement, that was not through the precinct. But I guess sort of like, where do those calls go? Because for the longest time, we weren't getting any uniformed people. And it kind of felt like there's traffic enforcement people at the Holland Tunnel or at the Lincoln Tunnel, but the world's busiest, vehicle bridge could not get, you know what I mean? Like what happens there and how should that go?
Well, the Holland Tunnel, and I think that's manned by TBTA.
Yeah.
And like here, by the bridge, actual bridge, that's TBTA. But if you call 911 because you have a vehicle condition, that's gonna go to the patrol officers. If you call 311, that's gonna go to the precinct, and it's still gonna get assigned to a police officer.
Okay, I think I got that.
But there's an urgency. For example, if 311, if there are other jobs that are higher priority, those are gonna go, the officers are gonna go to that first, and then they'll go through the 311.
Number you dialed is not in service.
Can we
But-
please mute ourselves? Thank you.
Sometimes, depending on the period of the year, certain holidays will assign a 311 auto specifically, because we know that calls to 911, the volume is gonna be much greater. So we'll assign a 311 auto to deal specifically with 311 auto calls.
Lieutenant Pagan, I think what we're trying to figure out is in these areas like 207, 181st, going over the bridge both ways from the George Washington 179 and the other bridge going into the Bronx 181st. When the areas get heavily congested, who do we reach out to? Because I know that for the last efforts on 179, it was the congressman's office that reached out to NYPD and they were able to place agents there. So in order for us not to go, all the way or scale all the way up, we would want to know as a committee and I guess as a board, who can we reach out to help, maintain traffic?
Well, what's causing, I'm not sure what's causing the congestion depending on what time of the day. If it's rush hour traffic, then it's rush hour traffic. Or are you saying it's a police condition that's creating the backup? I'm not.
Sure. No, it's usually rush hour traffic for the most part, from what I know in these areas. So is it one of those things where PD, dispatches their agents out there and then, or is it something that we as a community could reach out to just to kind of get that support?
If it's rush hour traffic in this area, it's the congestion. I know it's problematic, but that's because it's rush hour traffic. I'm not sure.
Well,
yes.
sorry, I'm going out of order.
No. Rush hour traffic, it's rush hour traffic. If just because it's rush hour traffic, we try not to do checkpoints during those hours because it makes matters worse. So rush hour traffic, unless there's an accident where we need to divert, close off a street, send the traffic in another direction, then that would be different. But rush hour traffic, that's just ameliorated with time.
Okay, Debbie, do you?
I don't want to go out of order. I think Jim has his hand up next.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Thank you very much. I think this is a wonderful meeting. Our committee's especially our committee's getting together with the fire department and the police department and such. And I just want to sort of amplify what Debbie is saying. And I also want to make a distinction between rush hour traffic, that happens, and rush hour traffic that's so bad it basically is not distinguishable from gridlock. And that happens also. And that's not acceptable. And, during certain rush hours and in the summer, it may just not just be on Friday, it may be on Saturday and, when there's stuff happening in the city and so on. We don't just have ordinary rush hour traffic, and I don't want to be contradictory or anything, but I walked along Fort Washington Avenue and seen drivers driving south in the northbound lane just to get it. It's just craziness. Now there are sort of two issues. There's the rush hour traffic stuff, and again, we're speaking to people at your level, but probably what we're talking about may have to be dealt with at a higher level. This is such an important problem. And secondly, there are occasions when strange things happen on the bridge. And then, there's absolute gridlock. The same thing, but it's almost as though there's no coordination. And again, I don't know where to look between the folks on our side of the bridge and the folks on at the Port Authority, because the Port Authority clearly knows there's a problem. And yet, even though most of the north-south avenues, Fort Washington, Broadway, maybe as far over as Wadsworth, are simply not moving because 178th Street and 179th Street are blocked. There are no people out there taking care of this. And as you know better than I do, the reason we make a fuss about gridlock is because it's downright dangerous. In fact, let's see what strange things hopefully don't happen tomorrow. So I just wanted to, stress the importance of it. If it needs, we need to, apprise the folks higher up in various commands that more needs to be done. I think that's part of the process we should follow. Thank you all very much. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Jim. That was eloquently said. Barbara?
Thank you. Another gridlock situation. I'll say it quickly. When you go over the University Heights, what I call the Fordham Road Bridge, and people have to turn onto 87, onto the Deegan, there's constantly a gridlock there. People also block the box, and also things become very backed up. Again, I just want to do ditto to what Jim Berlin said about it being dangerous and all the thing, reiterating what Jim Berlin just said. And it is also when people then try to go further south on the Deegan and are entering and trying to go south on the Deegan. There is only rarely have I ever seen any form of traffic enforcement. They're directing traffic at that critical turn. It also becomes very backed up all the way into Inwood, and that 207th Street intersection under the subway at 207th and I guess it would still be Nagel Avenue is known to have many accidents and also is a pedestrian terror zone. So, and that's also caused by the problems with the bridge. Now we know that there are two very large buildings that are going up by that bridge, which will house many hundreds of residents, further complicating that picture. So I would like that dealt with proactively, as these buildings will be going up in the next year. And there'll be many, many more hundreds of residents on the sidewalks there and in that area. It's clearly which would start with at rush hours and in early morning and evening rush hours, there be some form of traffic agent directing traffic at the entrance to the Deegan. Thank you. Or your comment if that's a bad idea.
Thank you, Barbara. And I guess I'll pass it over to Lieutenant Pagan or Sergeant Ahmed to address the questions and concerns.
I mean, I guess having traffic agents at these busy intersections, we've had them numerous times. We've all seen them directing traffic, and it helps a lot and everything. It's not the worst of the idea. That would be something that DOT in participation with NYPD, which we normally work with all the time, we could do that more often. But at the end of the day, if it's a lot of traffic and it's non-accident related and it's congestion and it's causing everybody delays, it causes us delays and everything. Yeah, having somebody directing traffic, if that helps, that would be a good solution to it.
Thank you. So I guess that my other question is should we go the route of escalating it, or is there a direct contact with each precinct that we can reach out to kind of mitigate the situation or bring a solution quite rapidly versus, going through other channels.
I will bring this up with my XO, my captain in the command, tomorrow if I see him, and we'll through community affairs office and everything, maybe Detective Pabe or Detective Chris Perez, they can build some kind of liaison with you guys on how to go about going through the channels to getting more traffic agents to address this traffic congestion. Yeah, I could do that.
Thank you. I think that would be helpful, Sergeant Ahmed.
You sure? My pleasure.
Eli?
Yeah, right along enforcement, I'm sure not too far off ahead of that is planning and prevention, right? So I wonder whether there's any open lines of communication between DOT and local police precincts. And I'm gonna piggyback off of one of Barbara's examples. There was a change of direction east-west. I believe it was 206 coming from 10th Ave to 9th Ave, going towards the Bronx, or vice versa, I'm not sure. And now the routing there, the traffic is changed, especially in the morning times when you have the delivery trucks in the supermarket in 204, the little corner between the school street closure between 10th and 9th, half the block, and then the traffic coming from the Bronx. How is there communications between the two agencies? Because I think that traffic in the wee hours is worse than I think the cross Bronx. It could take you 25 minutes from one block to the next. And I'm sure that there's people in this call that have experienced it the same way I do just about every day.
So if that question is for me, I don't per se work out of the traffic office in my command, but I will go out on a limb and say that absolutely I've seen the other sergeant who works in the traffic safety office having liaison with city DOT. So that's definitely it happens there in communication with each other as to what the highest congestion intersections are within any command. They participate in towing operations. If DOT is conducting any repairs or something, sometimes I'm at the desk. They would bring in a list of locations that they are working on as to where DOT is participating in any type of repairs or anything on the road. So there's definitely communication. I would say yes.
Thank you. Jay, followed by James. Go ahead, Jay Mazer.
I'm a little confused, so let me share my confusion with everyone. At one time, DOT was in charge of traffic enforcement around the areas of the bridges. And then I believe the police department was put in charge of the question. And for years, I've been wondering why a traffic enforcement agent couldn't be assigned to the George Washington Bridge to help alleviate congestion. And now it's my understanding that a traffic enforcement agent can't be assigned there because the police department is in charge and they don't employ traffic enforcement agents. The DOT does. And I don't know if Sergeant Ahmed would know, but are there police officers available to do such tasks Or are there insufficient personnel in the 34th and precinct to do those jobs? Maybe the sergeant could explain and help alleviate my confusion.
Which location are we talking about? Are we talking about the bridge itself, the George Washington Bridge?
And that was one of the locations that have been discussed. Another one would be the Washington Bridge on 181st Street. And a third would be the 207th Street Bridge.
Okay, so those two are local city bridges. Those would be covered by NYPD, DOT. Yeah. And what's the question? What's the question again?
Which specifically agency, police department or the DOT, would be in charge of assigning personnel to help alleviate the crowded traffic conditions on the three bridges that I mentioned?
Well, the George Washington Bridge is a separate sort of a entity. I can't really comment on that one because you have so many agencies working. You got Port Authority. There's so many state police and everything. But the other two bridges, I would say it's both us and DOT.
Okay, hold just one thing I just wanted to clarify, just to verify DOT doesn't have any enforcement capacity of any type. We don't ticket, we don't tow, we don't have the ability to do that. As far as coordination with NYPD, we do coordinate with them when it comes to projects. We coordinate with local precincts when it comes to milling and resurfacing. We do get traffic intel reports from local precincts. So if any precincts have any concerns that they would like for DOT to research or investigate, we would do that. But as far as enforcement in general, we don't have the ability to do that. We don't ticket, we don't tow. Any questions that we get as an agency, we tend to refer to local police because again, we don't have the ability to tow or ticket. We don't have any enforcement capacity at DOT. And so we'll work with local precincts, but as an agency or an enforcement agency, we don't have the capacity to do that. I just want to clarify that, moving forward.
Thank you, Lau. James Bosley?
Yes, hi, thank you. In Midtown and on the Upper West Side and on the Upper East Side and downtown, at every major intersection and entrance to a tunnel, there are traffic enforcement agencies. But for some reason in Inwood and Washington Heights, especially when we have such major bridges and other arteries that are backed up, I don't see any traffic enforcement agencies directing traffic at these major arteries. So I'm wondering, why are we being short-sighted? I know that George Washington Bridge, I think it's the Port Authority police that pretty much control traffic on that bridge, but is there any coordination between them and the New York Police Department to offer some assistance in directing traffic? But my main point is that Uptown seems to be shorted when it comes to any kind of traffic enforcement assistance. Thank you. I don't hear any response.
Yeah, I believe that's a question for either Lieutenant Pagan or Sergeant Ahmed.
I mean, I would say the point is noted. I will, like I said before, I will bring it up with my executive officer tomorrow, and they'll through Detective Pabay and Detective Perez, if there's an answer to this, they will reach out to you guys.
Thank you, Debbie.
Not to belabor it, but I'm going to belabor it. taking the point that NYPD can't put personnel out there for rush hour traffic. What we described was a complete lockdown of the streets. What might take you normally 3 minutes could not be accomplished in 30 minutes. You just couldn't get anywhere. People were racing around onto oncoming traffic. There were near misses at every month. It went on months and months and months. And if you called 311, they would take the claim and the case, it would be shut within 45 seconds. Not once, not once, not once. At any time, no matter how many times you see agents in other parts of the city, not once on 179th Street, on Fort Washington, on Broadway, from 179th going up to 101st, not once did we get any support. So we're just trying to understand like what, and then when we finally did, it was via the Traffic Enforcement Command. Now it's less of an issue there because some of that related to the construction. But 179th Street, our city streets are the responsibility of enforcement. But I guess that sort of segues into, and I know people will bring this up when we sort of move on to questions from attendees as opposed to from the committee members. But let me just say two things about sort of how we got here and what I think people, just other areas that are similar to this one. We heard at all the elected offices, certainly at CB12, we heard, and I'm sure everybody at all the precincts was hearing it from the time of the pandemic and continuing, how vulnerable many people were feeling on the sidewalks, given the amount of motorized things that are on our sidewalks. And people felt very vulnerable, particularly seniors, but other people as well. And they come to traffic and transportation, but DOT can't do anything about an electric scooter, e-bike, something on the sidewalk that is not meant to be. And understanding that on some other level, with the screaming priorities facing any precinct, that might get deprioritized, but just sort of how we do navigate that, and then I guess similarly, but more, even more sort of threatening is like when we see people blowing red lights and stuff like that of like, how do you and I know you are dealing with that all the time. But people then come to us and be like, well, let's try to change the streets. But at a certain point, we don't change the streets when it's an enforcement issue. We change streets when the street itself is unsafe in some way. But I guess a lot of these things just come back to like, how do you contend with balancing the many priorities that you face and the urgent emergencies versus things that are less emergencies, but they're still violations of the law. And again, whether it's activity on the sidewalks that's not supposed to be there, people blowing red lights, people speeding, all that stuff. I know it's a really open question, but we just, again, we get a lot of it on the traffic committee, but it's not really something we know about or really have good answers to.
Well, I like to address that. That's why this weekend, Manhattan North, we did a initiative to target these scooters. And I could tell you yesterday when I came in, they let me know we had like 7 or 8, I forgot the number. But also the 3-4 was so they ran out of space, so they were bringing them here to our precinct, or their bikes, scooters, and that they seized. So it was a fruitful operation, and this was in preparation for the warming weather, trying to get ahead of them. These bikes that cannot be registered in the city, for example, they'll never get it back. Eventually you'll see a news conference. They do it every year where they crush all these illegal dirt bikes. So I expect that to happen again this year. So that's one area where that's what we did this weekend. We're going to concentrate. They brought in officers just to focus on that issue, and it was fruitful. But you're right. There are other issues that come about, and that's why it's done like this. They'll pick a weekend. We'll do this operation, and that's what we'll target. The next weekend could be something else. And so it's in preparation for what we know is about to come.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Eli. Thank you, Lieutenant Pagan.
There was a couple of questions on the chat, but I guess you answered them, saying that you're gonna promote them so that they can ask them
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, after we kind of go through the agenda points, we have a
Oh,
few minutes to discuss. We'll allow for public commenting for a public session, so they'll be able to address the concerns.
Yeah, and on my question is, how much of these traffic enforcement initiatives the local precincts have been budgeted for? Because I know that your precincts have been constantly talking about the loss of agents and the retirees. We went from 250 pre-pandemic to now 140. So, how does this new ask from our community, how does that impact your precincts? And is there funding for getting more help?
Well, there's no funding to have the cops that we have now. For example, write tickets. We have in my precinct, the 3-3, we have 4 traffic enforcement agents. Now, sometimes if patrol is short, we'll use them for patrol, but they're getting paid. So there's no additional monies. They're already getting, whether they're doing traffic enforcement duties or patrol duties, they're getting paid. So there is no, as far as if you mean hiring new police officers, that's a matter for downtown and the budget, the city budget. The officers that I have here, they're issuing summonses and writing tickets. And I mean, I had a meeting last week in downtown in regards to them, and it went well. They're doing well. They are addressing the issues, and even though we have fewer officers than we did at the start of the year and this period last year, so they are, but that's citywide. That's not just here.
I guess to piggyback off Eli's question and comment, how often do you, as the police department, set up these initiatives to remove like the illegal dirt bikes, ATVs off the street? Is it something that's once a quarter, once a month? Does it have to be discussed prior? How does that work?
It's unpredictable, but this was the first one of the year, because now that the weather, it's getting warmer. It's we addressed it, and we're going to continue. There'll be another one, but it's hard to predict when it's going to happen.
Thank you. Barbara?
Generally, these illegal dirt bikes, electric bikes, they come from the Bronx. I've known that from past experience with the community council, and it requires coordination with other precincts. Is that what's going on, that you're coordinating with the 50th and the 49th in terms of, saying they're on their way over the bridge and closing off the bridge and things like that?
I think that's for you, Sergeant Ahmed, since you're
yeah, we've done joint operations with the 50 and the 49 in the past. Last year alone, over the summer, we've had a few checkpoints that we've conducted with the Bronx precincts, not just the Bronx precinct, but also state police and everything. Sometimes even Yonkers PD has participated in operation checkpoints with us, and that's last summer that I'm talking about.
Now, some electric bikes are not illegal. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the city council has passed or is pending to pass that you have to have certified batteries of some sort if you have an electric bike. And if you don't, the bike's no good. Are you checking some of these electric bikes if they have the substandard batteries? Because those are the ones that are causing the fires. And if not, I think that would be a good idea to do.
That could be considered in the future operations, yeah.
I mean, that to me is like a no-brainer to really
Yeah.
check that on the
And-
delivery people and these electric bikes. Because how many people have died and how many millions and millions of dollars of damage by these defective batteries?
We have, we're looking to see if they have any, we have any, in my command, I have not seen them yet, any businesses that are selling these illegal scooters or bikes. If we were to find one, we would let our law department know, and we would issue them a cease and desist letter, letting them know that they're not to sell that because it's illegal. But we haven't noticed them here in the 3-3.
They're probably sold online. Maybe.
I guess to piggy off that point and kind of move on to the next agenda point. So in conjunction to the Visual Zero Action Plan, how's your department tackling the initiatives such as ensuring compliance with the new rear seatbelt law, focusing on speed enforcement during the nighttime, and expanding on fraudulent license plate investigation and seizures? How are you guys dealing with that?
Well, that is an area where our officers are, they've been instructed to pay attention. As far as the, even with tinted windows, we do at least one, on every platoon, we do at least one vehicle checkpoint a week. And we issue summonses for that, for like a tinted windows, or if we see plates that have been mutilated. So we look for that. So that's something that we are paying attention to.
And yeah, I would say the same goes for the fraudulent plates. We participated in numerous operations for the fraudulent plates, numerous collars, numerous arrests. In my precinct, I check the arrest numbers all the time, and hardly a day goes by when we don't see an arrest coming in for a fraudulent plate. So definitely there's a lot of enforcement in terms of that.
Okay, yeah, because in reference, since you know we are the TNT committee, the Traffic and Transportation, a lot of these illegal plates and vehicles are taking our parking spaces. Often, and I can say I've been a victim of it, I have somebody double parked with a fake plate because they know they're not going to get ticketed or towed, and then I can't get out of my parking spot in the morning to go to work. So I kind of want to see, or so you guys touch base on how are you guys enforcing? What's a game plan, or is there a game plan to prevent or take these illegal vehicles off the street?
So a lot of times we'll have, just the other night I was working the overnight shift, and we had two tow trucks with us, and we targeted one area around the 210, 211, 212, those streets, and vehicles were towed, vehicles were ticketed. Some were, it was different sorts of VTL violations on them. Fraudulent plates, expired registrations, parking on sidewalks, parking like crazily everywhere. So when you have resources like that, when the tow truck is right there and you issue a ticket and the vehicle is removed or booted, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we just did that last night.
Okay, thank you. Barbara, I saw you had your hand up. You still have a question? You're muted, Barbara.
Barbara, on mute.
If you identify a car with a fraudulent plate or a fake paper plate, do you seize the car?
The car is, the vehicle is towed back for further investigation as to what's going on. The plate is taken. And there are incidents where the car is removed off the street and is taken. And then there are incidents where the person is able to prove that for whatever reason, due to the lapse of dealership faults or anything like that, in those cases, the vehicle is returned back to the owner. But if there's foul play, they don't get the car back for quite some time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, the second question, if I call in a fake paper plate, for example, on Hillside Avenue where I live, I have noticed one. How quickly or what kind of action can be taken quickly to deal with it?
So, ma'am, it would be all depending on what is happening at any given hour. If there's a non-emergency at any given time, absolutely, we'll go there and address the condition. If there's an urgency going on where someone is getting robbed or there's like gunshot, then we are going to that job first. But like I said, it could be a lot of times I will be at the desk and I will get a phone call pertaining to something that you have described, that they've been waiting on a accident with property damage only for over half an hour and no one has arrived, to which we explained that there's an emergency going on. There were shots fired in the neighborhood.
Of course.
And securing the crime scene. Obviously, the person on the other end, sometimes they can understand, sometimes they'll understand, sometimes they're not, because when you are waiting that long, obviously you're upset. So, you know what I mean? That's the situation.
Should someone report that on 311?
You could report that on 301. That's absolutely you could do that. Yep.
Okay. If I walk past the paper plate tomorrow, I should report it on 311 or should I call the precinct?
As long as you can like fairly articulate that, you know what, this plate is definitely fake, fugazi, and I should let the police know. Definitely, you could call 311. You could call the precinct if you'd like, or you could call 311. Yeah.
Who do I report it to? Like Chris Perez or Haiti Pavey or who?
You can just call the
precinct. Call the precinct as a black hole.
Do you have the 3-4 dispatch number, the telephone dispatch TS number?
927-9411.
Yeah, you could call us. You could notify us on that one, on that number.
Okay, all right. It would be helpful if the 311 app had a category for, fake, stolen, or fraudulent plates. It does.
Let's you.
That's not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To kind of go up, what Barbara was saying, let's say it's not fake plates, but they are double parked overnight. And I know I've called NYPD in the past and they said to report it to 311. Usually 311 gets to them, and if I'm lucky, they'll come and ticket it, and then a tow truck will come and pick it up. How can we expedite that? So how can I not insure? Because I know, like you said, if you're busy or if you guys have an incident or urgency going on, you won't show up. But how can I expedite? Problem is, if it's like 5:30 in the morning, I'm going to work and there's a car double parked in front of my car, and I'm kind of just stuck there.
Yeah, I understand. It's I've been there. I've lived in Queens, and I've been there. I've had my driveway blocked several times, many times, and I've waited. And there's been times where I just walked to the subway station. It sucks. It happens. We try to get to these calls as fast as we can. Sometimes the emergency prevents us from doing so, and that's the long and short of it. We will try to get there, ticket the car, get it towed, so that way the person that is stuck can get to work, get to school, wherever they gotta go. We understand everyone's got somewhere to be, and we work on those. Taking that into consideration, we work on those jobs. So rest assured, we do respond.
Thank you.
The chat requested the phone number again.
I'm sorry?
For the 34th. The chat requested the phone number again to call for the 34th.
It's 944.
No, what phone number should people call for the 34th precinct?
I would recommend them to reach out if it's an emergency to 911. I think the precinct has a lot to deal with on their plate, and we have a bunch of people calling that specific dedicated line. It might distort from what it should be used for. So that's my recommendation.
Well, he said call the precinct also.
I've had my.
That's an option. I gave you like multiple options. I said you could call 911, you could call 311. 911 is for more like emergency. 311 is for non-emergencies. And people do call our telephone dispatch line to report any sorts of non-emergency calls. But just bear with me a moment, I'll get you the number.
Thank you, Sergeant. Eli.
Yeah, I think, and especially when I hear the crime stats, and it gives me a lot of, personal pleasure to understand that you guys have become throughout the years more of a data-driven department. And with the data that you get, then you start, tackling the issues that you have to prioritize. So not these items that the community and a lot of the board members have been suggesting, as far as the traffic congestions and the speed traps and the parking enforcement and the plates, the fake plates and all of that. I think that it gives you an opportunity to kind of like focus on not just our complaints, our individual complaints, but the data that you guys have, which we don't have access to. So how much of a focus do you guys put on the non-emergency items? And of course, I don't want to say that you're reactive, but by nature, the police department could be. But how much of your data-driven stats lead you to do non-emergency issues or deal with non-emergency issues?
We analyze non-emergency issues just as much as often as we analyze the emergency issues and calls. Those stats, they come up in meetings just as much, where it's a call for a non-priority and how long did it take us to respond there and how can we improve it? And we're always constantly trying to improve those response times.
Thank you for your response, Sergeant Ahmed.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone else from the committee have any more questions for Sergeant Ahmed and Lieutenant Pagan?
Would you like me to share that telephone line again?
Yes, if you can, Sergeant.
Okay. That would be the telephone dispatch number 212-927-9711.
That's 212-927-9711. Thank you. Jamina?
Hey, good evening. So my question is around drug usage on the train. I'm not too sure that's part of our agenda this evening, but I just wanted to touch base on that because it is so consistent on the trains. And I know that our officers, especially our newer officers, are on the train stations. However, based on my observations and my experiences, that our officers are focusing more on fare invasions rather than drug usage. So since we're talking about data and stuff, I just want to know if your data has shown a reduction in drug usage in the train station, because I have seen people literally injecting heroin right on the platform while we have officers ensuring that people pay the $275. So there's like a huge conflict of interest, in my opinion, or like community priorities at this point. And I also consistently see like officers on their phones on the platform while people are legit doing heroin on the train. And not even just the platform, legit on the train cart itself with children and families around. And then I think that creates such a liable situation because rules of the MTA are not to smoke on the train, regardless of what it is that you're smoking. You're not supposed to smoke on the actual cart. So people are deciding not to be bystanders and speaking up against drug consumptions on the train. So I was just wondering, how are our officers in our local precincts are addressing these, specifically drug usage on the platforms?
Definitely. I mean, I've seen a number of arrests come in. I've looked at the numbers myself. Occasionally, I see arrests coming out of transit system over the controlled substance possession and usage of the controlled substance and everything. And as far as your question in regards to the officers being on the platform and maybe not aware of what is going on, I would just say that if there's you see a suspicious activity or anything like that, which you think that the officer may have not seen because maybe he or she wasn't aware of it, bring it to their attention. I don't know if you have or not, and seen if they have taken action. If they don't take action, then you definitely have some kind of gripe against, hey, how come they didn't take any action? I would say bring it to their attention, because we have, as all of you have seen in the past 6 months, I want to say, there's been a huge increase of subway patrol. It's been in the news, and you guys have seen it. Precinct officers, transit officers, the NYPD, pretty much we have flooded the subway system with police presence. The numbers of arrest summonses and of this nature have gone up like tremendous. If you're asking me about the data, then yes, compared this 6 months to like before, it would be like a huge number increase of the arrests related to controlled substance possession, usage, or anything like that. And if you see more of these things going on and you see an officer on the platform, just approach them, bring it to their attention. Hey, officer, that person is on the subway car or that side of the platform. It looks like he's using drugs, doing drugs, or something. And I'm pretty sure they are going to go take a look at it.
Thank you. Jay Mazer.
First of all, I think that substance abuse and public transportation is a legitimate issue for the Traffic and Transportation Committee to be discussing. And however, as the whole board has been informed at least once, maybe several times, when the safe injection shooting gallery closes at night, there begins to be a much larger substance use on subway trains, particularly the 181st Street 1 train. At least that's what the board has been informed of. But I'd also like to state, based on New York City's experience in my lifetime, I don't believe that we can solve the controlled substance use problem by arresting our way out of it. I just don't think it works. Not that I have a solution. Maybe if people are happier, if they had better jobs and a better life. And this is a particular problem for Washington Heights because, at least to my awareness, since I've been in high school when I first noticed it, people from New Jersey and other neighborhoods come to Washington Heights for the purpose of purchasing drugs. So, I mean, that's the little I've noticed about this problem. And I think in all fairness, It isn't like the officers can solve this problem by arresting a couple of junkies.
Right. I actually agree with Jay. I just wanted to piggyback really quickly. And currently in our community, we're having a public health crisis. This has gotten to the point, I think we can all agree on it, that it's not just arresting people, it's real humans going through real crises that it hasn't been addressed and needs to be addressed in a humane way, because it's affecting so many residents of the community, not just the drug abusers, but your average folks are also being drastically impacted by what we see. So yeah.
Thank you, Jay and Jermina. Eli?
And to that point, and I don't have the solution, neither the authority to speak with the same resumes as Jay or Jim or these people that have been here probably as twice as long as I have. But the stats, which I am so obedient to, almost cult-like, show that the unintended consequences of certain planned solutions it really depends on the areas in which these solutions are implemented on. Yes, there has been a problem in this community of having a lot of people coming from different communities for different purposes. So my question to the 34th, do you have an idea as to that's the number of people who do not reside in our community that get in whatever kind of trouble and arrested because of A, B, and C? Is there a number that you guys can share with us? Because I really believe, from my own experience, that we've become the Bahamas of Manhattan, a safe haven for multiple purposes. So is there a number that you guys can share with us as to which is crime really resident and germane to our community, or people from other communities come and perpetrate their crimes in our community? Just curious.
You said from the 3-4, you said you want a response from the 3-4, or?
Yeah, that would work.
I'm afraid there's not going to be a number per se like that. It would be more of a personal observation, which you have made. As far as like communities coming to a different neighborhoods and getting like roped into crime or drugs or anything of that nature. That would be a hard-pressed and question to answer like that. That would have to be, as far as analyzing a concern on a piece of paper. It would be of a different nature of analyzation required. But I would say it's mostly like a personal observation that people make when they see someone in their own community and thinking that, oh, you know what, this person has come from outside. He must be from New Jersey, and he's over here and shooting up drugs or shooting up heroin and everything. He doesn't belong here. And then like to expect some kind of any kind of like data on that would be a little bit difficult to answer.
And I could add to that, and I get a report every day, which I was just reviewing. I pulled it up here. The number of people who were arrested within the 3-3 precinct yesterday, and the residents of the 3-3 precinct who were arrested anywhere in the city. And just from yesterday's number, this is something I get every day. It's always one day behind. Tomorrow I'll have today's numbers. 3 people were arrested in a 3-3 precinct, all of them residents from the 3-3. And from just my experience and memory from reviewing these reports, most of the people arrested here tend to be locals. And if they don't live in the 3-3, it's not that far away. Maybe in Harlem, in the 3-4 in the Bronx, but they're not too far away. They're not in the 3-3, at least I can say they're not coming from New Jersey or far away. They're locals.
Thank you. Thank you for the updates. It's a very interesting report you got there. So I'm glad you were able to share that with us. Luana?
Hello, everybody. I just want to also offer that as the neighborhood continues with its rezoning projects, putting up luxury buildings and charging rents that surpass the average median income for the area. And as somebody who was born, raised, and still living in Inwood and Washington Heights, I'm keeping a close watch on when the neighborhood will, or when enforcement, local politicians will start enforcing cleanup laws to welcome the newcomers that are coming in that are in a higher income bracket. Those of us that saw the crack era of the 80s and nursed this neighborhood back into what it is now do have a right to live a decent quality of life now that the neighborhood is turning. So yes, there should be measures to find pathways for drug addiction reform, but let's not forget that there's also personal accountability for the choices that we make. And as somebody who has been here, who has seen it, and who's not moving from here, now that it's becoming nice and up and coming, as it is dubbed in the press, I think that we should continue discussions about balance. There are children in this neighborhood, elders in this neighborhood, and as somebody who, like I said, has been here for all of her life, I'm just saying that I'm keeping a close watch as to when these issues will be taken seriously, because those of us that have been here deserve a better quality of life. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Luana. So before we move into the public session, just 2 more things. I know that Public Safety Monthly addresses the NYPD, and NYPD provides a crime stat. So the 33rd and 34th, if you can please do so for the record. And then I have a question for FDNY before we move over to the public session. So I guess the 33rd, if you want to go ahead and give an update. I'm sorry, Lieutenant Pagan, I believe you're muted.
I'm sorry. I just
yeah, go ahead, no worries.
For the 28-day period, which is covers March 6th to April 2nd, we're down 27% in overall crime, which is, I'm very happy with that. And the only an area that we are focusing on is grand larcenies. That is along Riverside Drive and Edgecombe. That's why when we do vehicle checkpoints, we've had catalytic converters, tires, and rims stolen from vehicles. And so I have my midnights when they do their vehicle checkpoints. I have them do it on Riverside Drive. And I noticed that when they do their vehicle checkpoints, we haven't taken any crimes during that in the lower end of Riverside Drive. And in the past, we've done joint operations with the 2-6 all the way up to the 3-4 along Riverside Drive to sort of discourage those type of crimes from happening. And this weekend, we had 8 cops, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday night. These were extra officers that were brought in from outside, posted along Edgecombe and 155 in Edgecombe, 160 in Edgecombe, 165 in Edgecombe, and 165 in Riverside Drive. That was just additional coverage from, they worked from 9:30 till 5 in the morning, providing coverage during that time because we've had those type of thefts there. And also, they involved we had three tools that get stolen from commercial vehicles, parked in different areas of the command. So that's just an area that we're addressing at this time because we saw, even though in that area for the year we're down 10%, for the 28-day period, the month we're up 43%. So that's why we're targeting that specific offense.
Thank you. The 34th.
Yes, hi. So for the 28-day period, we're slightly up, about 11% overall in crime. And what's driving is just small number of robberies and some grand larcenies, which are identity theft related. And there's been few burglaries that have come to my attention. There's been a few construction sites that were hit overnight along Broadway. One location, I believe, was hit like twice. And just as Captain Pagan mentioned, the extended coverage from 2130, we had the bulk of it in the 3-4 over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with, I believe, 35 officers, 32 officers, I believe. Yeah, and then the other 8 were in the 3-3. And the goal was to fight crime, robberies, and the overnight burglaries that have been taking place in the construction sites and everything. We've during the course of the night, different operations were conducted, which I was talking about earlier. Also, fraudulent plates, vehicle towing, of that nature and everything. And in terms of ground larcenies and everything, everybody, especially community affairs office, they always remind people of being alert of the scam and fraudulent calls where people become victim of different kinds of scams that perpetrators target people on. You won this scheme, give us this much money, and then that will be your reward. And then they end up losing so much money out of their bank accounts. That would be like the one area that we certainly always try to raise awareness about. Our shootings are down. Our violent crime is down, huge. We've had one shooting as opposed to 6 to this point last year, and 0 murders or homicides. So we're very happy about keeping the violent crimes low.
Thank you. Eli?
Yeah, thank you, Lieutenant, and thank you, Sergeant. Last week, we were part of a meeting that was organized by the 34th and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. This meeting was in with hair salon owners and nail salon owners. And I don't want to go over the details, but the common denominator was that there was an array of different robberies and assaults that took place in their shops. Again, these businesses have the commonality of being owned by women, and that's what usually congregate a lot, amongst a lot of women. So there's been crime evolutions, and now you have a lot of crime taking place in this group, this industry, and a lot of these women do not, for many reasons, language barrier, being afraid of retaliation, and also they don't understand the 311 911 concept. So they've actually been underreporting a lot of the incidents that have happened in their place. And I'm not blaming you guys. I'm just saying that just to be cognizant of the fact that, there's crime is targeting folks who they know that they may not be reported from, and that they will be able to get away with a lot more. And there's no violence usually in these interactions. It's mostly, a little gun or whatever they bring in. That's what a lot of what these hair salons and nail salon owners were talking about. So I just wanted to bring that up to the table so that we all understand that even though your crime stats reflect the reported crimes, there's also some other things that are happening under the radar that should also need attention as well.
Thank you, Eli. Okay, so I have one question for FDNY. I know you've been sitting there patiently, and we want to get you involved. So my question, and that could be answered by a superintendent or any representative of FDNY, Sandra or anyone, but do you guys have numbers or stats on how many fires in our area, so within our district, are caused by the lithium-ion batteries that belong to these scooters? You guys have a specific number on that? You can, talk about this year only, but yeah, I would like to know at least.
That is a great question, Leo. I do not have that particular number on me, but we do track the number, generally the number of structural fires that we have, non-structural fires, but we have taken note. So internally, we have taken note of all the lithium ion battery fires that have taking place throughout the city. And I will circle back if I can email the board, because I think this is useful information. But if you want me to email you directly as well, Leo, I'll provide that for you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think it's good to know what's going on in our district. And, this is a hot topic. I know they're trying to pass legislation, or there's communities that are pushing for legislation of having charging ports for these vehicles or bikes. So yeah, if we can get that number, that would be great. Thank you, Sandra.
My pleasure.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't quite understand the relationship between the fire department and the emergency responders, the EMTs. I understand that's been for many years since Giuliani was mayor under the fire department, but I don't exactly understand the relationship and how it works. Does the fire department, if they hear about someone sick in their apartment, call for an emergency, medical technicians to come by? Or I really would just like to get it explained so we all understand what that relationship is.
Sure. Under the umbrella of the fire department, we have fire operations and EMS operations. If I must say, perhaps I'm content, Jay, that you may not have had to be in a scenario where you've had to call 911, but when you do call 911, the first thing that they tell you is hello, that you've reached somebody, and they say police or fire. So as you begin to explain the situation, tell them your location, the operator on the other line is now assessing the information, whether you need police and fire. Is it that you begin to smell smoke? Is it that you have a person within your household that is beginning to display signs of cardiac arrest? And then they will be able to direct you or transfer you to EMS if needed, if it's medical attention, if there is a situation that calls for fire operations, and or if it is police. So 911 will help assess, given the information that you provide, to better direct you.
Thank you, Sandra. Jay, does that answer your question?
I actually was more of a formal question. What exactly is the relationship between the emergency medical service and the fire department?
We are one department. There is not, there are internal bureaus, but we are one department and function as one. So when in the light of an emergency, as long as it is not police related, we will provide the best, the response that is needed, be it medical attention or that of fire.
Thank you again, Sandra. All right, so we'll move on to the public session. We'll allow all public attendees 2 minutes. I have taken a cue and we'll mute you accordingly. So first up, it's Allegra Legrand. Let me unmute you. Allegra, go for it. 2 minutes.
Hi there. Thank you, Leo. Yes, I would like to have some context for traffic violence in our neighborhood. I know in New York City as a whole, in general, traffic violence, or NYPD, the MV-104AN, outstrips the felonious assaults by about a factor of 3. Can you please provide me details for Community Board 12? For me personally, I know that every day I cross Broadway at 215th Street to get to the 1 train, and every day I see cars blow that light. No one in my neighborhood can find any traction to get one of the 150 stoplight cameras posted in Inwood. So I wonder, when was the last time you did a target enforcement? And could you please provide me context for the number of speeding violations and red light violations issued from January to March 2023 in Broadway between 220th and 207th Street compared to those issued in the same time of year for 2019. Comparing those 2 years for the traffic violence statistics, were up by about 20%. So I would like to know if your speeding and your red light violation citations have been increased by about the same amount over that time period. Thank you.
I believe that's for the 34th precinct, Sergeant.
That is the 34th precinct, David. David Sector 34th, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Can you give me the dates again?
I would like to have some context for citations for speeding and red light violations issued in the Broadway corridor from the northern end of the precinct, Broadway and 220th down to 207th Street. I would like this year to date in context of 2019.
So this year compared to 2019, not 2022?
Well, we're up from last year as well, but sure, I'll take whatever you have handy.
Yeah, whatever you can provide us. Know that at the
I won't be
moment,
able to provide you these numbers today since I'm not in front of the computer. What I can do is I'll run these numbers. So speeding, red light, you said?
Yes, I'd like to know the speeding and red light violations. In 2022, there are 478 MV-104ANs issued in Community Board 12. Compare that to 2020 when there was only 371. Those are traffic violence incidents. That is to say, incidents where either a pedestrian, a cyclist, or someone riding in a car was actually injured. And I would like to know that over this period of time where we have like a 25% increase in the number of people getting injured by cars, have we had a 25% increase in the number of traffic citations issued to cars engaging in dangerous behaviors?
Okay, do you have a contact number that I could reach you at?
yes, Sergeant Ahmed, what you'll do, we'll be in contact, Eli, and
Put it in the chat.
presentation, And we'll get those numbers for you so we can relay to the committee next month.
Sure, absolutely. Let me know through Chris Perez or Detective Habe and my office or myself. We'll be happy. We'll be able to run these stats for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, David, Tom. Go ahead, David. I have unmuted you.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So just to take advantage of the joint nature of the two committees on the meeting, often at traffic and transportation, there's a great idea that'll come up for some design improvement that'll be a real asset, whether it's city bike stations or a change in intersection design or pedestrian enhancement. But inevitably what'll come up is the question of parking. And then, there's always a giant debate that you will derail it over the loss of parking. The reality is there's quite a lot of parking that could be freed up if, as was mentioned earlier tonight, some of the enforcement activities were stepped up. So, just to give an example, in my walk home from the subway tonight, first I went by a food truck that, along with two other vehicles that are part of the food truck, one's used for storage, one for deliveries, had been there for 2 years and hasn't moved from a spot for 2 years in a legal street parking spot. The truck's not even legal, by the way. It has no health department certificate. And then next to that was, some sort of van that was like a used car dealer owned. It was like a large bus, small bus that hasn't moved in a year. The next block was all the legal parking spots in the block were occupied by used cars, which is not legal. At the next intersection, there was a car wash van that hadn't moved in over a year. This sort of thing is very common. We all know the stories in the blocks where these things happen. And every possible 311 report or complaint just, gets closed for some excuse or another. Police will say referred to sanitation for abandoned. It's not abandoned. There's various reasons that are given, but the reality is there are dozens and dozens of parking spots that are illegally occupied. And it's just from lack of simple enforcement of very clear rules. And if that was done, it might take some of the pressure off when we're trying to do other things that are, net positive for the neighborhood. But people spend more time fighting over parking spots relating to City Bike than they do trying to free up the many dozens of parking spots that are just there being illegally occupied. So that's my comment. And I'd love to see some enforcement from the precincts involved in Upper Manhattan to, not have Inwood and Washington Heights be the Wild West. Let the city's rules operate as they should so that other processes can occur in turn. Thank you.
Okay. Naomi Gofine.
Hi, thank you so much. I have 3 quick things. One is I related to the person who was describing the difficulties or challenges that NYPD might have sometimes with enforcing the law with regards to drug misuse on the subway platform, on the trains. And I had the experience of pointing out to a patrolling officer that there was someone that was in need of help, which is the way that I phrased it, because he was.
I'm sorry, Naomi. Can you speak to the camera? I'm fading away.
Oh, sorry. Because of they were using drugs on the platform, and the response that I received was, "What do you want me to do about it?" So I'm just curious what I might reply in the future to an officer that might ask me that question. That's one. The second thing is that I just want to second the concerns that have been raised, sounds like in the past, but also today, with regards to scooters and e-bikes being on the sidewalk and the hazards of that, the obvious hazards. And the third thing is I'm new to this meeting, and thank you so much for everyone who's involved in it. But I just wanted to know kind of what the follow-up mechanisms are with regards to things that are going to be looked into, like how does that, what's the follow-up to that when specifically like yeah, how does that work in terms of if something is said, oh, I'll look into that, then what's the follow-up on that? That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naomi. So I have a question for you. The train station, the subway station that the officer responded to you in that way, do you have or can you mention where was it that this happened to you?
Yeah, it was at the 181st train station, 181st and Fort Washington train station.
Okay, so that's you, Sergeant Ahmed, on the 34th.
And what was the interaction? I was taking some notes. 181 and Fort Wash.
Yeah, so she was at the station. She saw someone doing some drugs, I believe it was heroin, she said, and she approached the officer to point this out. The officer responded, what do you want me to do about it? So she wants to know, what's the best way to
Were you able to grab the shield number or the name of the officer?
No, I genuinely wasn't sure if it was the officer's responsibility to do anything after they stated that to me. So I didn't think.
And it was drug use?
Yes.
Well, in that case, in these situations, a lot of times we'll call the person could be sent to the hospital. Arrest would not just be the only route, the only way in these types of situations. Definitely the answer wasn't that, oh, what do you want me to do about it? No, there's a lot we can do about it, and a lot we do about it. It's the providing the person the necessary help. And if there's criminality afoot in that, where the person is doing it because there's criminality afoot, yes, absolutely, he or she will be arrested. And if they genuinely look like that they just need help, either whether it's going to the hospital, speaking to someone, a doctor, medical help, a psychiatric help, then absolutely we will be calling EMS at the location, and we'll be making sure that the person gets the required help that is necessary.
To be clear, I didn't ask for the person to be arrested. I pointed out that the person needed help. And that's why when I got that response, I actually genuinely wasn't sure if that was the NYPD's officer responsibility.
No,
the response.
absolutely. That would fall under our scope. Anything of that nature would fall within our scope of responsibility, where if someone is clearly they're in need of help, we can always, or if anything, we can always just go and ask them, are you okay? And do you need any help? There's nothing wrong with that. And you weren't wrong in asking the officer or pointing out to the officer that, hey, that person might need help, or he looks like he might need help. What I would say is in future, now and also they have their name and shield right there on their jacket or on their shirt and everything. You can always come into the precinct with any sort of complaint that you may have in regards to an officer, kind of ignoring or blowing you off like that.
Thank you. And Naomi, and obviously Debbie, who's the chair of the Traffic and Transportation, and Leela, who's the chair of the Public Safety, can piggyback on this. But we in these meetings monthly. It's committee meetings. You're obviously open to attend them as well. And any concerns that we get during the meeting, we take them back and we reach out to the various partners, agencies, stakeholders to get these answers. And then the chair would give an update if it's outstanding, or they'll give a follow-up. But the information is never left up in the air. We usually follow up, as we say. And again, Debbie and Eli can add to that if you guys want.
Yeah, that covers it. I mean, it just some situations the office can take care of. Some things we can handle, the agency follow up. It just sort of depends, but it is incumbent upon us. I just want to do a little reminder to people that you've got 2 minutes to ask your question, and then there's about a minute for folks, presenters to respond, but we don't really do the back and forth in this format. in the community board format.
Debbie, this is Maria Luna. I have my hand raised. So after the public speak, I would like to address the committee for a little, maybe a minute. Okay,
We
thank
got you,
you.
Maria. We got you.
All right, thank you.
All right, so Cheryl, then followed by Danny, and Odell Wilkins will wrap us up. So Cheryl Miller, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you, Leo. And thank you, everybody on the committees for having this meeting tonight. So I have 3 quick things also, and I would like to address, is it Lieutenant Pagan from the 33rd? Because I'm in the 33rd precinct
Captain
area.
Pagan. Yes, Captain
Oh, I'm
Pagan.
sorry, Captain Pagan, forgive me, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Okay, so I live on West 165th and Broadway, not far from the hospital. So today I've been noticing a lot of these, whatever you call them, electric motorcycles, electric mopeds, that a lot of the deliveristas use from the restaurants to make deliveries. I almost got hit by one today on the sidewalk, right by BBQ. The guy was working for BBQ, and he was backing the bike up on the sidewalk. And all of a sudden, he just started to like lurch forward. And I was like, whoa, whoa. I'm like, do you see me over here? And I'm a senior. I should mention that also. Okay. I thought I was going to have to like jump out of the way, hit the sidewalk or whatever. And I really thought he was going to hit me. And then I addressed him. He's just looking at me like I'm talking Japanese. And I have my hands like almost like in his face, like, hey. So my question on that is, and also I saw about 3 of them right by the hospital today, run right through a red light. I don't know, people have to be educated, like red means stop and green means go. I mean, that should just be a given. I don't think people need to be educated on that. But I wanted to know if something like that with my run-in with this particular delivery driver today, is the business accountable? Like I almost thought about going into BBQs and talking to one of the workers in there and saying, are you
Cheryl?
hiring people that don't know how to drive these things?
Cheryl, start wrapping up.
Okay.
That's something that we can definitely address. That's why we had an operation like that this weekend, but I can have my officers, community affairs, go to those specific businesses and let them know that we know that they rely on these delivery vehicles to deliver the food, but they have to be mindful to not operate them on the sidewalk and
exactly,
so that people don't get hurt. That's something that we could definitely adjust, because then, I'll have to let them know that, because if failure to do so, and if my officer sees that, they can take enforcement action. So it behooves everybody to operate those vehicles in a safe manner.
I had one more quick thing, Leo, if I might, for Captain Pagan. I didn't have 2 minutes yet. Everybody else had time to ask their questions. Please let me just ask this quick question. I've been waiting a long time.
It's been over 2 minutes.
I've been waiting a long time.
We understand. We'll
Let
let
me-
you ask the one last question, but it's been over 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I don't. The
Hello?
other, yeah, somebody muted me. The other thing is, you had mentioned a joint enforcement with the 50th precinct with the ATVs and the dirt bikes. Is that going to continue with the weather warming up now and these people coming in from the Bronx? I know that they're coming over that bridge. Is that going to continue this summer?
I'm sure there'll be others, without a doubt. So this was just the first one that we did, and I can assure you there'll be others. But that's something that's coordinated with the higher command, and so I can't tell you if next week there'll be another one, but we'll definitely be addressing it again. That I'm sorry enough.
Thank you, Captain Pagan.
Thank you.
Danny
And you
B.
muted me again, and that's very rude.
Danny B.
Hello?
Yes.
Ni mi
Ready? Hello?
Yeah, I saw that I saw that there was like someone else talking.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
My like question or comment or concern, and I don't think this is it's like going back to what the last person said. You now see these e-bikes, scooters, and just like electric just vehicles, and they're now taking up the space of the sidewalk. It sucks that the public doesn't have any way to hold these people riding their e-scooters on the sidewalk. And I wonder if there's any kind of way that maybe if there's some kind of resolution or some kind of thought that has to be made where it's like an awareness of like riding these scooters and where to ride them. Like I have a motorcycle license, and I know if I to ride a vehicle that goes over like 20 miles an hour, I would ride it on the street, not on the sidewalk. I almost got hit the other day, and I spoke to the guy real fast. I stopped him real nicely, and I told him, I'm like, hey man, I don't think it's fair that you're like riding these things like so fast, 25 miles an hour on a space that is meant for pedestrians when we have the right of way most of the time, you know, and especially on a sidewalk. And I told him, I'm like, I could have been like one of your family members or something like that, and you could have hit me. So I don't think it's fair that you ride on the sidewalk, and then at the same time, most of these delivery people, they're riding without helmets, so they're putting themselves in danger. So my whole thing is, I wonder if there's like accountability to the people riding these like scooters, and also is there like kind of like some kind of like an awareness program or some kind of like license or some kind of classes that these people, anybody in the delivery service is taking, you know? People are gonna get hit, and if it's not in this neighborhood, it's in another neighborhood.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, no problem.
Leo, I just wanted to make a brief comment.
Barbara, can you hold on? We have
Sure.
two more people for the public session.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem.
Odette Wilkin?
Yes, hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I just wanted to quickly bring up the Link 5G issue. I know that's not on the agenda, but you're past your deadline on commenting, and you're slated to get 73 towers in your district unless you disapprove.
Odette, we're not taking comments at this time that are off the topic. We're just still running through the questions on this
Oh, okay.
agenda item, and I'm not sure we're going to get to old business tonight.
Okay.
But I would sort of reach out to the chair via the office on this topic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Odette.
Thank you. And lastly, no, I think that's it. So that's it. Barbara, Eli, and
Yeah.
then, I'm
Okay.
sorry, Maria, Eli, and then Barbara.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. I just want to alert people who are complaining about some behavior about police officers that each month, each prison have a community council meeting where we discuss complaints and concerns of public safety and so on by the police department, by the members of the police department, usually held on the last Thursday of the month. The 34th is held the last Wednesday of the month. And the meetings are, the commanders and everyone that is involved in police matters attend those meetings. So the public should be aware that there is another avenue, not just through the community plan, community Ward 12. But my concern right now is I was waiting for the new business that they changed a traffic sign on Broadway and 158th Street. Usually if you go north, you could turn left on 158 and go right down, all the way down to the highway. Now the traffic goes all the way, they changed that and they moved, you can make turn on the left on 159th Street, going to, on Broadway, going to the to Broadway, but then there's a conflict with number 4 bus that is coming down for Washington Avenue. So the people who are driving up to 159th Street, turn left, and then they make another turn left to go down to 158, and there they can take, turn to the right. The number 5 bus and the number 4 bus use the same route. It is a mess, and we have to take a look at that, not only for the driving, but also for safety. So Debbie, I don't know how, you would like us to address that. I can take pictures and send it and discuss it in the next meeting of the committee. But I just wanted to make sure that people understand that if we have a problem with the police department, I think that they should come, come attend the meetings of the community council each month, and you will have answers to everything. So Debbie, I think that I probably.
Okay, I think I got it. So Maria, if you can send a picture and reiterate the location.
Yes.
And the signage is DOT, and we actually have a walkthrough scheduled soon. So we might be able to just kind of take a stroll by, but we're meeting right around there, so we can probably fit that in. So just get that stuff to me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry about that, Leo. Just wanted to jump.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Eli, and then Barbara, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I guess I just texted you because I wanted to hear about Battalion 13's report, but I guess they left unless Sandra has anything that she wants.
Can't hear you, Eli. Louder.
I was just saying that unless Sandra has anything to report on what could have been the Battalion Chief 13's report, I'd be more than happy to hear her talk about it. And then on the parking spots, that's in the work, good points on enforcement, on the food trucks and the car wash vans, and adding that to the hundreds of parking spots we lost to the bike lanes, parking spots as well. I think that we've lost quite a few secured, not secured, but just car parkings. So that I think that it'll be a good measure to have both precincts to pay closer attention to the loss of parkings, because anyone that's followed the news have seen an increase on violence generated by people taking parking spots from one another. So I think it was a good point that was brought over by the gentleman that spoke during the public session.
Thank you, Eli. Barbara?
I just wanted to say that, David Tom gave a very precise list of vehicles that were in flagrant violation of the law. And I would request that the committee these are mainly around 211th, 212th Street. I would request that the committee have the 34th report back on the outcome of each individual vehicle and what the outcome was in addressing each of those, and report back to the committee.
Thank you, Barbara.
So please, 34th, do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure if you want to give FDNY report, the fire chief's report on his behalf, or is that something that we can circle back, I guess, or Eli can circle back for next meeting?
Yeah, from the 34th, you mean?
Yeah, for the fire chief's report.
Oh, the fire chief's report.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sandra, is she there? No, she left.
Sandra here.
Yeah. Is there anything that the chief wanted to report that you have private knowledge to that you want to talk to us about? Since I guess he left.
Yes, unfortunately, Chief Flynn was not able to stay, but I do want to share with you a topic that we began to broach upon, the importance of lithium-ion batteries. As you can see, you turn on the news. We've seen several that have occurred throughout the city. Some fatal, others just damage to property, but nevertheless, one too many. So really want to stress with you, our fire safety education team continues to facilitate trainings. Lithium ion batteries are one of the main topics that we discuss amongst having a plan your escape. Also, cooking safety tips as the holidays have already begun and are nearing. Some more are to come throughout the remainder of this week. So should you want to partner with the FDNY proactively, we're here reactively when you need 911, but proactively, please feel free to reach out to myself, sandra.sanchez@fdny.nyc.gov. Many thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. So with that being said, I'll pass it back to Debbie for old business or new business, or I guess
I have one more thing before you move on to all business. On the 30, is the sergeant left already? Ahmed, he left?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Are you there? Is there any updates on the 181st Street 8 train station arrest or anything that has taken place since then?
Yeah, the 3 individuals were arrested in that regards.
Any more updates that you could be free to share?
Yeah, like I said, yeah, 3 individuals were arrested. The case was closed. It was 3 individuals were arrested. Obviously, I don't have the investigation details or anything, but I know that 3 individuals were arrested in that regards.
Okay, thanks. Deb?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Leo, Eli, the combined committees, NYPD, Lyle, everybody who, this, at least for me, is the first time I've done it, that I've been part of a joint committee on our committee. And I know it's a bigger lift, and I appreciate everybody's engagement. With that, it's 9:08. I don't want to spend too much time with the old and the new, except just if I could ask Jody to remind us of the walkthrough date and time, and for TNT committee, just if they'd like to join. I'm planning on participating. I think Bruce is, in addition to Jody, has done the organizing. This is around 158th Street, upper roadway going towards 168th of Riverside, upper roadway of Riverside Drive. And to what sort of partially what Maria was saying, but just to sort of get at the whole issue that, we're sort of, there's 2 connected hotspots that we hear a lot about on the committee. So I think it'll be a great opportunity. Yeah. So Jody, can you just remind us of?
Yeah, it's April 13th at 4:00, and we're meeting out in front, or, at my place, 870 Riverside Drive.
Okay.
And I can.
Right. So just, maybe just put it, send it to the committee as a reminder.
Okay, I'll send it like I do, to everybody on the committee. And then, okay.
Okay, great. Mary?
I would just like to follow up at the next meeting on the 193rd Street M3 bus stop that was closed or temporarily not happening or whatever, because I'm still hearing from, from the Newark community up there on Fort George Hill, what a major impediment that is to the ability of seniors and disabled from that area to be able to navigate travel in that
Right.
area.
I mean, unfortunately, that turned out that wasn't temporary, like going back after the road work was done, but the safety improvements, et cetera, that were made up there, it sort of necessitated, well, there were sort of two issues. So as I understand it, so the M3 concludes up there around, the top of Fort George Avenue, Street, whatever it's called. But the bus was having to basically make a turn that then became impossible with the street improvements on 190th, or they just also, the MTA just they don't want their buses doing it the way they were doing it. So now on the uptown side, on the uptown route, the bus is making a right on 190th, meaning it is no longer making this one more stop on St. Nicholas. And that's creating, if you were trying to get to that stop, like you're basically now have no choice but to kind of, like, you've added 3-4 blocks to your walking, sort of, no matter how you slice it, but that is not coming back.
But you know what? This would not happen on the east side, and I can tell you that there's going to be a big, big protest from those people in those north buildings. And I will be with them because I am I have a disability as well. I know how difficult it is to navigate that hill and try to travel up there. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to be in rehab, but I'm going to fight with them. This is totally against the disabled and elderly. It's a major,
so
major
just so
issue.
people know, so now the bus basically is continuing up Amsterdam from
Right.
190th all the way up to its end point, beginning point.
Right.
So you really are left with just the choices of, like, getting off at 189 or having to go all the way up to the top and then coming back down.
And neither one is acceptable.
I hear that, and I think there has been a lot of people have sort of expressed dismay at losing that on the uptown side.
And that shouldn't have happened. We should have been fighting before this.
But so, okay, all right, we can talk about it more. I just, I mean, it sort of sounded like, was it making a K turn? Like, I don't even understand, but I don't think the bus can physically make the turn. Though but
it was,
yeah,
but it was, and now there's no reason for it not to still happen.
All right, so let's keep talking about it, and then kind of, we can always go back to MTA and say, like, all right,
well,
did it really have to go?
We're going to be
Like,
protesting.
did it really not be done? That kind of thing.
Yeah, we're going to be protesting. So,
okay. So with that, I think I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn for the night.
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good week.
Good night. Take care, everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night,
Elaine.
Thanks,
everybody.
Leo.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.